Welcome to another biblically based look into today's news from Christian Voice New Zealand. Now here's Mike Bain.
There's an epidemic happening in this country and the government have no answers. I'm not talking about the spike in Omicron cases or winter flu. I'm referring to the outbreak of crime conducted by children. In recent weeks, media outlets have carried stories of teenage ram raiders targeting an Auckland shopping mall. We've heard of children as young as 7 years of age found in the early hours at a Hamilton shopping mall targeting a toy store. Teenagers involved in carjackings, violent dairy robberies, and the list, well, it's just starting to grow. But why is this outbreak suddenly happening? Is it cyclical, as the police say it is? Well, because of the ages of some offenders, it sounds bad, but children and teenagers have been involved in crime for decades. Think back to the teenage ram raids where dairies and petrol stations were targeted for cigarettes, where teens emulated the movies The Fast and the Furious around city streets with cop cars chasing them. The boy races, particularly notorious in Hamilton, using suburban streets for whatever. Young offending has been going on for a long time, but even I must admit that at this stage it is now out of hand and becoming an epidemic. Small business owners possibly could suck up the loss of profit from the odd shoplifter, but with margins the way they are today, many are now facing uncertainty because of the measures they're having to go to protect their assets. Across New Zealand, there are many dairy owners owned by people who are open all hours, trying to eke out a living, possibly making less than the minimum wage. And they're being forced to spend a fortune to erect bollards, smoke cannons, metal mesh gates and fences for protection. Now, they've looked to the leaders of our country, to the law enforcement agencies, even to the neighbourhood for protection. Well, apart from the platitudes they hear, nothing is giving them assurance that crime will not stop. The opposition, the National Party, have said several times the government is soft on crime, while the government defends its record by putting more police on the streets, or so they say. The Minister of Police has even appealed to the community for more help. Well, there's a white flag of defeat right there. But while everyone stands around with their hands in their pockets, shrugging their shoulders and staring down at the ground, the answer is obvious. It must come back to a question of parenting. We have an ideology promoted by the New Zealand government where the nanny state knows better about how to bring up our children. This is the same nanny state idea where the stupid idea of letting the village raise the children of New Zealand. Well, can I say that village is now filled to overcapacity with people who have no parenting skills left. So my question is, what type of children is it that the village is raising? The escalation of crime conducted by our children can be put down to many things. It can be the mandate passed down from the government to the cops to be soft on crime. It could be because of the tough economic times we're facing. But it can't be because they're hungry, simply because it's not food these kids are stealing. It's electronics, cigarettes and toys. You know, we can blame everyone and everything else for the way our children behave, but let's not accept parental responsibility. And yet, if we were returned to the way the grandmothers brought up their children, this epidemic would have stopped a long time ago. There are several factors at play, but kids, as they do with every generation, only follow the examples that surround them. They are the imitators of the culture they live in. A culture with a decline in responsibility, a culture where there's a lack of morality, a culture of very little integrity, and a culture built on self-entitlement. You know, you cannot sit there and accept that you have no responsibility in the way these children are acting. After all, we let them be taught by an education system which has no moral shame. A place where they're taught they're nothing special. A place which encourages them from an early age where there is no need for respect for one another and where they're taught and encouraged to keep secrets from their parents. We as adults make available all types of entertainment. Pornography, which objectifies women, is freely available, as is video games where acts of violence are rewarded. We have a government who don't see a lack of truth as a casualty of society. But most of all, we have a country which stopped teaching our children of a responsibility to a higher authority through the Bible in Schools program. We're not blameless in this epidemic. We as families need to stop and review what our role is. On the news following a recent funeral for one of the 4 young people killed in a horrific car accident in Invercargill, a spokesman for this young boy's iwi mourned the loss of this teenager. He said he mourned in 2 ways. One way was for the family, for the loss of their son. But he said he also mourned the loss of the future for his iwi. It's true, every time we lose a child, we lose a part of our future. But we need to bring our families back to the dinner table, back to being a family, and the first thing we need to teach our young people is respect. As parents, we need to show respect to our partners and also to your children. You know, we can send the kids off to school, but they learn how to live and how to act from you. If your child is in a mall in the middle of the night, this is on you. Don't blame society. Look in the mirror and ask yourself, how did this happen? Last word. Many people these days dismiss God. They dismiss the word of God found in the Bible. But here's the thing. When people live in a God-honouring way, there is peace in the land.
Thank you for watching. Help us to spread this message by sharing it within your own network. For more information, jump online to our website, christianvoicenewzealand.com.